Welcome back to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast, brought to you by Violet Defense. Violet Defense is dedicated to protecting our world from germs by bringing the power of UV disinfection to everyday spaces. Their patented technology enables them to harness the power of the sun to incorporate ultraviolet light into products and environments like never before. Whether you're ready to implement existing products, or if you'd like to explore researching and developing a custom deployment of their technology for your school, Violet Defense has the solutions and the experience you need. Thanks again to Violet Defense for sponsoring the Educational AD Podcast, and please go to their website at www.violetdefense.com. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive. We actually have a Sideline Interactive video board in our gym, and it is fantastic. You really need to check these folks out. You know, it's becoming harder and harder to fund an athletic department these days, but Sideline Interactive's indoor tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every year while creating excitement in the gym and the ultimate game day experience for your athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action and see what these fantastic products can do for you. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. The FIAAA has a Wall of Fame board for our Hall of Fame, and it's really a tremendous product. Wall of Fame by Vital Signs has a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. We provide a variety of interactive touchscreen options and an extensive library of templates to make it easier than ever to recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. For ideas on how to showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments, visit www.vitalsignswalloffame.com. Or to learn more and get started with your own digital Wall of Fame tribute, call us at 614-981-3589 or email us at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to thank Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack for sponsoring the Athletic Director's Toolbox segment of our podcast. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your athletic program. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack also gives the 95% of the players and the parents who love your program a voice and help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out our testimonials, and then call us at 1-800-738-6466, or you can email at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. Let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. We also want to thank Varsity Brands, including BSN, Varsity Spirit, and Herff Jones, along with Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing, for their support of the Educational AD Podcast. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We've got a special guest today. We're visiting with LuCina Taylor. She is a certified athletic administrator. She's currently the assistant principal at Petal High School in Petal, Mississippi. And she's got a very strong background, as a player, as a coach, as an athletic director. And we're excited to hear what's happening in her corner of the country. So, LuCina, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. A little nervous. Hope I have something worth hearing, but I'm excited for the opportunity to talk with you this morning.
Oh, no, we're glad you're here today. Well, as an assistant principal, now obviously you're very busy, so let's jump right in. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you went to school, and how this long path has led you to your current position at Petal High School?
Okay, great. Think I can do that. I am a mom of one. I have a son, Cameron, who's 27, will actually be 28 the end of this month. And he's a military guy, and he is serving in our United States Army. So mom of one and sister of many, lots of siblings. I'm from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and that's a little bit deceiving. It's one of those closest point of reference cities. So I didn't actually live in Hattiesburg. Grew up in a community outside of Hattiesburg called Kelly Settlement. And I graduated from South Jones High School in Ellisville, Mississippi. Just kind of started love for sports as a young kid, country girl. So we spent a lot of time outside, as you could imagine. And so maybe like around sixth grade, I started developing this affinity for basketball. And just several girls in my neighborhood, they played. And I think I really got the bug in 1987 when our high school girls basketball team won state, went undefeated. And again, some of those same girls that I looked up to were part of that team. So that was something that I really wanted to do. So played basketball and ran track, and I was in band. So I was involved in a lot of activities. So that was an important part, of my life. I did choir in elementary school, but when you're doing all the things, you got to make some choices sometimes. And so I said, play basketball, ran track. The track thing was not by choice. Those back in the day where my basketball coach was also the track coach, and he pretty much said, if you want to play basketball, you got to run track. So, it worked out. I kind of transitioned from the running part to shot put and discus in those latter years, which was fine. I felt like I had a pretty good, I had a lot of potential as a young kid. And when I got to varsity, made choices and didn't put in that work. And so that's what happens, when you come in with a certain level of, or so you feel like you got a certain level of talent and you don't continue to work, then, others are. And so, but I stayed involved just because I love being on the team. I still love the sport, and being active was important to me. But just being a part of a team, I think that's one of the best life experiences. One of my dear friends made that statement years ago. I said, I think you're right. Same thing with band. I learned so much from it. But as I started college at Morris Brown College in Atlanta for a year, and just some situations in my family, transferred home to University of Southern Mississippi. And so I did the mini major kind of route. I started off as pre-med and wanted to be a doctor for my entire life. But I said, things happen, and found out later on that I'm squeamish, so that wouldn't have worked out very well. So I got my bachelor's from Southern Miss in coaching and sports administration. And I tell everybody my journey into education was a total and complete accident. And I'll get into that one a little later, but so I got my master's and went back to Southern Miss and got my master's in interscholastics athletic administration. I've been in education since 2000. So this is year 22, if my count is correct. And just really enjoying what I do. And so just in this new phase as an assistant principal. I have two other assistant principals that are phenomenal, and they really helped me learn and grow and get into what it is that we do. So it's been a great experience so far.
I can tell you really enjoy what you're doing, which makes it great. It's almost like you're not going to work each day.
Yeah.
LuCina, in our profession, education and athletics administration, we always talk about the importance of leadership and particularly mentorship. So I always ask our guests, who are some of your mentors that you've had in your life that have helped get you where you're at today? Maybe it was family members or maybe people you've worked with or worked for, but who pushed you to be the best version of yourself?
Well, I think my first mentor definitely, and didn't realize it then until I was older, was my dad. My dad was a hardworking man. He did whatever he needed to do to be able to provide for his family, and he really set a good example. He taught me the importance of being disciplined and being committed to things, and was always such a huge supporter and encourager for whatever dream I had. So like I talked about wanting to be a doctor, and he never told me anything except you can do it. And he was just so on me, but it was in that way because he believed in me and knew that I could do whatever I wanted to do. So in that regard, that was my very first mentor. Like I said, I don't think I really realized it until I was a little older. Another important mentor in my life, his name's Wayne Fortenberry. He was the head coach at Purvis High School when I was doing my student coaching. And it seemed such a by chance. I remember I was in class and I was doing my practicum, and he had actually contacted my teacher just saying that he was looking for somebody, and at that time I hadn't been assigned, and so it just kind of worked out. He's such an important part of my life even today. Great coach, and he showed me things that I didn't know, because my pathway into coaching, as I mentioned, being accidental. If I can step back a little bit and just kind of tell you how that happened, I was did some volunteer coaching at a area middle school. They were just kind of in some financial situations and really couldn't afford to pay a coach. And the principal at the time, she was a good friend of my mom's. I'd grown up with her, and she knew my two roommates and I played basketball. And she was just like, just come teach him something. And so we had gone, and my two roommates said really quickly, nope, not doing it. But I liked it, and I continued to do that as a volunteer coach. And so after that experience, I went back to Southern Miss, and I changed my major after having gone through seemed like 30 of them at the time. And I was a little nervous and was really wondering if this was something that I needed to do, but it all worked out. So I didn't know a lot about coaching. I just felt like at that time it was what I was supposed to do. And so Coach Fortenberry really, really shaped and molded me and showed me the right way to do things. As a male coaching, young ladies, and the standard that he had for them, that was important for me to see, him in that role, that he was really navigating all of those things. I said, being a male coaching females, and he was very, very particular in how we went about that, and just showed me a lot of things, just how to be a professional. And that was important for me to learn. Like I said, he's someone I still keep in contact with today, and so he's very important to me. Chrisla Hershenhan. When I started at Oak Grove Middle School after I'd been coaching about 6 years, and be honest, I thought it was like, what did I do to deserve this? I've been coaching varsity, and now I'm at middle school. I must have made somebody mad. But I tell you, that's when I learned how to coach, and she taught me that. She just really taught me how to break things down, how to be a part of a program, and understood my role in that and my preparation for those players. Because if I didn't do what I needed to do at that middle school level, it put my players in a position that they couldn't be their best, because I wasn't preparing them with the basic skills that they needed. And then it gave me a part in the program's growth, because I was laying that foundation. And so that was really important to me. And I transitioned my frame of thinking from, think about high school as kind of like these kind of glory positions. And I had to just see that gave me the opportunity to really be there for my kids and really invest in their growth and their development at such a critical time. One of my old principals used to say, middle school behavior shouldn't be duplicated anywhere else in society. So, so that was it's an important time in their development as people, and also as students, and certainly as athletes. So that was an important connection for me to make. Someone that's really important to me now over the past couple of years. Bet Rich Barton. I remember my very first NADC conference. And, when he was serving as our national president. And so I just started following him on Twitter and got the chance to meet him in San Antonio. And he's just been so helpful and influential, and such a great mentor, but has become a friend. And I really appreciate the opportunities to watch him even from afar and be able to reach out when I have questions and concerns. And he's encouraged my journey through NIAAA when I was an AD, and very influential in my seeking my certification. So Rich is top-notch guy, top-notch professionally, but he's a top-notch person. So someone I really appreciate. And probably my most recent mentor is my former principal, now assistant superintendent, Rob Knight, as a new AP who had zero desire or intention of ever being in this role. He gave me a chance, and it really brought me in and took me under his wing, and just really invested in my professional growth. Another person who is top-notch, high-quality person, and just a wonderful person to work with and to work for.
I always love to hear those stories, and I'm so glad you talked about your middle school experience, because I think it's a great lesson for any coach or any AD to go through it, working with those middle school kids at that level. And from an athletic standpoint, you mentioned it really sets that foundation of what they're going to end up doing at the varsity level. Okay. And I know Rich is a listener of the podcast. He's going to appreciate that shout out too. So
good.
For our listeners, we are visiting with LuCina Taylor. She's a certified athletic administrator, and she's the assistant principal at Petal High School in Petal, Mississippi. We're going to come back with some more wisdom, but let's take a break and hear from one of our sponsors. We want to thank Sideline Interactive for sponsoring the Educational AD podcast. We actually have a Sideline Interactive video scoring table in our gym, and it is fantastic. You really need to check out their products. It's becoming harder and harder to fund an athletic department these days, but Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every year while creating excitement in the gym and the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo to see their tables and boards in action, and also see what these fantastic products can do for you. Email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. We're back with LuCina Taylor, certified athletic administrator and assistant principal at Petal High School in Mississippi. LuCina, one of the things we like to do with this podcast is this idea of sharing best practices. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. What are some things that maybe you did as an athletic director, or maybe you're doing now at your current school as an AP, that when you sit back and look at, you say, boy, we really do a great job with this? Do you have any best practices for athletic directors?
Some things that we do here is just really communication focused and coaching education focused. We started this was from our superintendent and assistant superintendent over secondary schools, Mr. Knight, that I just referred to. They are starting a coaches PLC, and it's a professional learning community where they'll meet with our head coaches quarterly and just really talk about some very important aspects of their jobs and try to support and give them good information. It can be things dealing with, managing a coaching staff, building positive team culture, dealing with parents and even the media, those types of things. It's kind of, we know coaches are going out and they're going to clinics and they're getting that sports specific information, but we really wanted to hone in on just helping them grow as leaders of the young men and young ladies over whom they're in charge, as well as the other adults that they're responsible for. Because even as a head coach, you're trying to grow other coaches. I heard someone say before that you're essentially, as a head coach, you're grooming people to either take your place or to leave you. So you should be pouring into those people that work for you and under you, and seeing their potential. So just giving them valuable tips on how they can most effectively run their programs. We do a really good job of communicating with our AD. We meet weekly and just run through what our athletic schedule is, even though we may have already assigned coverage. We're just making sure there have been no changes, communicating those things, so that we can all be on the same page there. Obviously, it's football season, so when we have those home games, that's for us always the biggest crowd that we have for any athletics event on our campus. So we meet, again, superintendents, our ADs, our associate AD is our head football coach, so he's involved, and then our police officers, our chief, assistant chief, and then other APs and we all are in the same room and just walking through, any problems we may have seen during the last game, and how we can, talking about how can we make the experience better for our fans, for our spectators. And we made a major change from the first one to the second one, just from getting feedback. So I think we do a good job of listening to our community. We're a city school, so we have one middle school, one high school, 3 elementary. So we're all in the same space. So community is very important to us. And so that is something that's important to us as a school, because we have such great community support here in Petal. And so we want to, be careful that we're listening to our community members and taking those things to heart, but also considering what we have to do as a school to make sure that our student athletes are safe, that our fans are safe. We're still obviously in the middle of a pandemic, so communication and those type things are very important. I've always been very pleased with the visibility and support that we have from our superintendent. I worked in this district before I became an AD. I was the middle school coach here and an assistant coach, and it was nothing to see them in a gym at a middle school game and just there and invested and following up, and they're at choir competitions and they're doing all of those things. So I just think some of our best practices just really involve how well we communicate, how well we support each other, both in our schools and outside in our community. I was trying to think back to my days as an assistant AD. One thing we were able to institute, and ideas I got from NADC, I cannot take credit for it, but I appreciated learning how we could really just highlight the great things that our student athletes and coaches were doing. So we started a graphics program at Richland High School, and it just allowed us to literally put our kids' faces out there. We used them whatever way possible. If it was a game day graphic, or special occasions, players of the week, anything that we could do, and using those for partnerships and building relationships with local businesses to gain those support. So those are just some of the things that I think are good practices.
Well, I mean, that's a great list. Going back to your professional learning community, if you ever decide to come back to the world of athletic administration, that's your CMAA project right there. I'd be happy to help you with that. The other things you talked about, communication, you didn't say these words, but you were describing it 100%. You guys over communicate. You make sure that everybody knows what's going on. And I love, the shout out to your superintendents and the assistant superintendents coming to games. When you've got that type of support from the upper administration in your district, you've got it made. So very cool. You're doing a great job. Okay.
Thank you.
We are visiting with LuCina Taylor, assistant principal and certified athletic administrator at Petal High School in Petal, Mississippi. We're going to come back, but let's take another break and hear from Vital Signs Wall of Fame. We also want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. The FIAAA actually has a Wall of Fame video board for our Hall of Fame, and I encourage you to get one for your school. Wall of Fame by Vital Signs has a mission to bring your school's athletic achievements and legacy to life. They provide a variety of interactive touchscreen options and an extensive library of templates to make it easier than ever to recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. For ideas on how to showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments, visit www.vitalsignswalloffame.com. Or to learn more and get started with your own digital Wall of Fame tribute, call them at 614-981-3589, or you can email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. That's sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. We're back with LuCina Taylor from Petal High School, Petal, Mississippi. I'm going to call you Coach. Coach,
Yes.
a couple months ago, the Olympics were, very fresh news, and we're still talking about it a little bit. But one of the discussion points that came out of the Olympics, particularly, was Simone Biles and her very candid discussion of some of the challenges that she faces at a very elite level in the area of, social emotional health. So here's my question. How can an athletic director or a coach find a balance between, what might be an old school approach? Come on, you got to be tough. You got to get back in there, while being sensitive and aware of the emotional challenges that a Generation Z kid is experiencing. Do you have any advice for us?
I think the most important thing for all of us is just to remember we are people first before we are any title, before we are anything in which we participate. We're a human being, and we have feelings, and we have so many different aspects to our lives. I think as an adult, it's challenging for us to deal with all of the many aspects of our lives. We're spouses, we're parents, we're employees, and we're in all these various roles, and so we're constantly ourselves battling with that. So thinking about a kid who's trying to keep those, figure out what those priorities are and to meet all of his or her obligations, that could be that's a lot at any one time, and goodness forbid they're a stellar athlete and really excellent at what they do, and still trying to maintain those grades and be a leader on their team and then be a role model on campus, and that's a lot. And so I think we get caught up a lot in just the performance aspect of it. And the people forget that it is entertaining, but they're not, we shouldn't just look at them as being there for our entertainment, especially as kids. And, I remember Simone Biles when she said, that's what we're taught, and so there's a need for trying to teach our kids not to always just kind of fold under pressure, but pressure is real. Those situations are real. So I think it's more important that we're trying to teach them how to differentiate between what is a distraction that you can overcome, or a real live maybe even crisis that they're dealing with that needs their full attention. And so at that time, it can't be about what we as adults, even as a coach, can't just always say that I need you to be focused on basketball right now, because that's such a strong mental capacity that you have to really be able to compartmentalize those things. And again, as adults, we can struggle with that. So I think it's important for us as adults to help them navigate how to deal with those issues and challenges, and give them a pass, give them permission to take care of self, because those social emotional needs they're real. And I think what we're seeing is that going through a pandemic and all that our student athletes went through last year and are still dealing with to a certain degree now, is that it just, I think it really brought it to light. So if that's a positive in it all, is that maybe it gave us some perspective as to where our focus needs to be. It all goes back to relationships though. If if you have relationships with these students, with these student athletes, as a coach, you are probably more able to recognize when something is off or when something is amiss, or about the situations that they're dealing with, and you can step in and be a sounding board and be a strong support system, so that they don't feel like they're having to choose their sport over their own mental health and their own well-being. We just have to put people first, and that's what we should do as leaders. It doesn't matter to me if it's this 10th grade softball player, or if it's our chemistry teacher. Social emotional needs are important, and so just keeping in mind, we always talk about whole child. That's where we need to be. This whole child, what is best for this child in this moment? And yeah, we, of course, they're kids. They do have, they can be dramatic, and they can just blow some things out of proportion sometimes. So that's why we're the adults in the room, and we can help them talk to those things. But for those real critical issues, then we just need to focus on that child and what they need, so that they can be in the best headspace to make the decisions that they need to make, so that they can keep their life balanced as best they can, and just know that we're there to support them throughout. I think it's a terrible feeling for a kid to think that the only thing their coach or is concerned about is their performance on the field of play. That can't be what we're about. It cannot be what we're about in this business. We're about helping kids achieve their dreams and preparing them for life. Those are things that they're going to have to deal with their entire lives. So we have an opportunity there to really, really invest in kids and really pour into them and teach them the most important lessons. I distinctly remember telling some students when I was moving to another school that if the only thing I taught them about was basketball, I failed them miserably. And that's important to me. I felt like my coaching and using basketball was a tool to teach them about life, because what we know is they're going to be only so many of them are going to be able to continue their careers, but every last one of them was going to be a person. Every last one of them was going to be still be a human being, and preferably grow up into adults and have families and careers and all of those things. So I really was concerned about the influence I had on them and helping them make decisions and resolve conflict in a way that was healthy. And so just thinking about their overall well-being. So those are things that are important to me, and I think we have the opportunity to help them in so many other ways outside of just what we do as coaches.
Oh, no question. And I really think, you hit it on the head there. You talk about having that relationship beyond coaching, the relationship beyond the sport. So, LuCina, if one of our listeners wanted to reach out and pick your brain a little bit, and we'll do this again at the end of the podcast, but what's the best way that they can get a hold of you? Do you mind giving out your email address?
Absolutely not. My email address is, I'm going to say it and then I'm going to spell it. It's LuCina, LuCina .v as in Victor .Taylor @gmail.com. LuCina.v.Taylor @gmail.com.
We're visiting with LuCina Taylor, certified athletic administrator and assistant principal at Petal High School, Petal, Mississippi. We're going to be back with the athletic surveys by LifeTrack athletic director toolbox. But first, let's hear a commercial. Thanks. We want to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack for sponsoring the Athletic Director's Toolbox segment of our podcast. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your athletic program. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack also allows you to give the 95% of the players and the parents who really love your program a voice and help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6466. You can also email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. Well, LuCina, this has really been cool visiting with you. It's been kind of fun to trade emails and texts for a while, but
Oh,
we're not done yet. Right now, I'm going to ask you to send out a brand new athletic director on the very first job, but I'm only going to let you put 3 items in their toolbox. What 3 things are going to go into LuCina Taylor's Athletic Surveys toolbox?
okay. So first thing is that calendar, because organization is so important. I could almost put this in my own toolbox. Right now, I am, gosh, I gotta get, I'm still working to get better in that regard, but just, staying on track and, being where we're supposed to be, it's gonna just go crazy. I think one of the lessons I learned really quickly as an athletics administrator is you have your plan for the day, and then other people have their plan for your day.
Absolutely.
So you really have to be really good at time management and knowing what you have to get accomplished and being available to other people. So, it's just one of those things in leadership. Sometimes we do have to sacrifice what we need to do because we have to be available to other people, and then we'll find time to get those other things done. Probably the other thing, I guess, and it's in the same vein, kind of a to-do lists, and just making sure that you're checking off those boxes, and a notebook, even to-do list or a notebook where you're just writing things down, when you're having those conferences and those conversations, so that you are make sure you're getting what's communicated from someone else, and you'll be able to follow up and make sure that you're getting done what needs to be done. So I kind of lumped those all together. That may have been cheating, but next thing, get involved with your state association and NIAAA. I will say hands down, I was an AD for 3 years, but it was the most significant 3 years because I got involved early. I said I started as an AD in 2016 and was in Nashville in December, and it changed. It really changed my career wholeheartedly. Just being in the same place with these great minds, these great athletic director minds from all over the country, and just having the opportunity to be in a room and listen to them share ideas. That's what I love about our profession as a whole. It's all the same, in education in that terms, but everyone's so willing to share information. So go get it, like take it in. I think I found myself I was okay with the really big ideas, and I really wasn't scared. I don't know why, but I was like, sometimes I was like, this may not work, but it's okay. That's what we do. We take this, and we may shave off some edges and we make it fit for where we are and what our school's needs are and our community needs. So that was huge for me. I said that those conferences would kind of stimulated me to become certified. So I became an AD in 2016. I got my certification 2019. So, but I was really intentional about, staying abreast on what was going on in this athletics landscape, high school, across the country. And a lot of that so much of that came from just being involved with NIAAA and attending those national conferences. And our state association here in Mississippi, our state leaders here are very involved in NIAAA and was always strategic and intentional about funneling that information down and encouraging, athletic administrators to be certified and to get involved. So it's like I kind of got a double dose of it from the national association to the state association. So that was very important to me. And I guess lastly is just have a vision. Have a vision for what your goals are for your department and be department focused. I'm sure it's not just Mississippi, but a lot of times, we have athletics administrators that are in dual roles where they're both coaches and athletic administrators. And I feel like I could be wrong, but you kind of feel like they are so focused, feeling like that sport is the one that it's most observed and it's most scrutinized because that's the one that's kind of out in front of everybody. And I think we have a lot of administrators really want to grow in that role, but there's so much time that goes in, especially if you're a football coach. And we all know it doesn't matter where you are, whether your team is quote unquote good, bad, or otherwise. There's such an expectation there. And so, I want to encourage them, even if you're in a dual role, still make sure that you're giving the time to your department and all sports and thinking about ways that you can grow, those non-revenue producing sports and those smaller sports, because everybody's investing their time. Every kid is putting in time to be the best at what they can be. Every coach is taking time to be able to teach and coach those kids. So it happens a lot in athletics too, where we may not necessarily have a person on campus that is a swim guru, but we have to have someone who's certified to be with those kids. Well, give them the support that they need to help them become, a knowledgeable coach in their area. I think it's important that every sport, every activity, that they all feel valued, that they feel like they are just as important as any other, because they should be. Like I said, they have your school's name. They're representing you in everything that they do. So I just think it's important that that as a leader of a department such as athletics, that what you see and what you want the department to be, and that it's all based on what's best for kids, and not getting that mixed up in any of it, that the decisions that we make daily should be based on what is best for kids and how we're setting them up for success, and putting them in the best position to be impactful, on their teams, in their communities, and as they go out in the world once they, leave our high schools and go on to be student athletes or just students or productive citizens in our society. So I think those are three good ones that could be helpful to the new AD.
No, I think that's an outstanding toolbox. Once again, if one of our listeners wants to reach out and pick your brain, and you may have left athletic administration, but I can tell it's still very much on your heart and your mind.
Very much. It is
how can they get a hold of you?
You can email me at lucina.v.taylor@gmail.com. And that's LuCina, LuCina.V as in Victor, .Taylor@gmail.com.
LuCina Taylor, certified athletic administrator, Petal High School, Petal, Mississippi. Thanks so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was absolutely a joy. I appreciate it.
No, well, we may have to get you back. You had a lot of wisdom for us.
Anytime.
For our listeners, remember the Zoom recordings of these interviews are also being uploaded to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening today. Come back again next time for another episode of the Educational AD.